The stagecoach lurched violently to the left, throwing Lily Taylor against the wooden frame with a force that knocked the breath from her lungs. And in that terrifying moment before the wheel shattered completely, she knew her carefully planned journey to San Francisco was about to end in disaster. The horses screamed in terror as the coach tilted, then toppled. Lily felt herself thrown through the air, her carpetbag flying from her grip. She hit the ground hard, rolling through dust and sagebrush until she finally stopped, gasping and disoriented. For several moments, she could only lie there, staring up at the impossibly blue Wyoming sky, listening to the chaos around her. The driver was shouting, trying to calm the horses. The other passenger, an elderly merchant, groaned somewhere nearby. Lily slowly sat up, checking herself for injuries. Her dress was torn, her hair had come completely loose from its pins, and she had scrapes on her hands and arms, but nothing seemed broken. She was alive. "Miss, are you hurt?" The driver, a weathered man named Chester, appeared at her side, his face creased with worry. "I think I am all right," Lily managed, though her voice shook. She looked around at the wreckage. The coach lay on its side, one wheel completely destroyed. The merchant was being helped to his feet by Chester, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead but otherwise appearing sound. "Where are we?" Lily asked, brushing dust from her ruined dress. Chester removed his hat and wiped his brow. "About 15 miles outside of Paradise, Wyoming. We were making good time, too." He walked over to examine the broken wheel, shaking his head. "This is bad, real bad. The axle is cracked clean through. This coach is not going anywhere without major repairs." "What do we do?" The merchant, Mr. Peterson, asked what Lily was thinking. "There is a ranch not far from here, maybe 2 miles north. I can see smoke from a chimney over that ridge. I will ride one of the horses there and get help. You two stay with the coach." Lily watched Chester unhitch one of the horses and ride off, leaving her and Mr. Peterson in an uncomfortable silence amid the wreckage. The sun beat down mercilessly. It was September 1876, and though the worst heat of summer had passed, the Wyoming afternoon was still unforgiving. After about an hour, during which Mr. Peterson dozed in the shade of the overturned coach and Lily paced restlessly, unable to settle her nerves, she made a decision. She could see the smoke Chester had mentioned, rising in a thin column beyond the ridge. 2 miles was not so far. She was young, healthy, and sitting here in the dust was making her anxious. "Mr. Peterson," she called to the merchant, "I am going to walk to that ranch." "I cannot just sit here waiting." He opened one eye. "Young lady," Chester said to stay put. "Chester is not here and I need to move. I will follow the direction he went. It cannot be difficult to find." Before he could protest further, Lily gathered her carpetbag, which miraculously had not burst open in the crash, and set off walking north. The terrain was rougher than it had looked from the road. The Wyoming landscape stretched endlessly in all directions, covered in sagebrush and prairie grass, with the distant mountains creating a jagged horizon. She had been traveling for 3 weeks now, making her way west from Philadelphia after her father's death had left her with nothing but debts and a desperate plan to start anew. The heat made her dizzy. Her boots, designed for city streets, rubbed blisters on her heels. But she kept walking, driven by a stubborn determination that had carried her this far from everything she had ever known. When she finally crested a rise and saw the ranch below, relief flooded through her. It was a modest spread, with a sturdy log house, a large barn, several corrals, and what looked like a bunkhouse. Cattle grazed in the distance. Smoke rose from the chimney of the main house. Lily hurried down the slope, her steps increasingly unsteady. She had not eaten since early morning, and the shock of the accident combined with the long walk in the heat was taking its toll. The ranch yard seemed to waver before her eyes. She was halfway across the yard when her vision darkened at the edges. She heard a door open, heard a man's voice call out something she could not quite make out, and then her legs simply gave way beneath her. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. "I have got you," a deep voice said, and then everything went black. When Lily opened her eyes, she found herself lying on a comfortable bed in a room she did not recognize. The walls were rough-hewn logs, chinked with mud. Sunlight streamed through a window covered with simple muslin curtains. She could smell something cooking, something rich and savory that made her stomach clench with hunger. She sat up slowly, her head swimming. Someone had removed her boots and covered her with a quilt. Her carpet bag sat on a chair near the bed. "Hello," she called out, her voice hoarse. Footsteps approached, and then a man appeared in the doorway. Lily felt her breath catch. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled the doorframe. His hair was dark brown, slightly too long, curling at his collar. His face was tanned and weathered, with strong features and eyes so blue they seemed to reflect the Wyoming sky. He wore simple clothes, a work shirt and worn trousers, with a bandana around his neck. There was a gentleness in his expression that contrasted with his rugged appearance. "You are awake," he said, relief evident in his voice. "How are you feeling?" What happened?" Lily asked, though she remembered everything up until collapsing in his yard. "You passed out in my yard about an hour ago, gave me quite a scare." He stayed in the doorway, as if afraid to come closer and frighten her. "I am Henry Jensen. This is my ranch. Your driver, Chester, came by earlier looking for help with your busted coach. I sent him back with my wagon and some tools, told him you had made it here on foot." "I walked," Lily said unnecessarily. "I could not just sit and wait. I am sorry for the intrusion, Mr. Jensen. I am Lily Taylor." "Henry," he corrected. "And no apology needed. When I saw you collapse like that, all I could think was I needed to help." He smiled then, a slow smile that transformed his serious face. "Accidents can be blessings." "I am not sure how collapsing in a stranger's yard counts as a blessing," Lily said, but she found herself smiling back. "You look like you could use some food and water. I have stew on the stove." "Nothing fancy, but it is hot and filling." Lily's stomach growled audibly, making them both laugh. "That sounds wonderful." Henry led her to a simple but well-kept kitchen. The house was clearly a bachelor's domain, everything practical and minimal, but it was clean and well-ordered. He ladled stew into a bowl and set it before her along with fresh bread and a glass of cool water from the well. Lily ate gratefully, too hungry to be self-conscious. Henry sat across from her with his own bowl, eating in companionable silence. She studied him between bites. He had to be in his late 20s, maybe 30. There was a loneliness about him that she recognized because she felt it herself. "Have you lived here long?" she asked. "About 5 years. I bought the land and built most of what you see. It is not much, but it is mine." There was pride in his voice. "I have about 200 head of cattle, a few horses, make enough to get by." "It seems like hard work." "It is," he agreed, "but honest work. I like working with my hands, seeing something grow from nothing." He paused. "Where were you headed when your coach broke down?" "San Francisco." "I was planning to find work there, start over." "Start over from what?" Lily hesitated, then decided there was no reason not to be honest. "My father died 2 months ago. He was a businessman in Philadelphia, or he claimed to be. Turned out he was much better at spending money than making it. When he died, the creditors came calling. I had nothing left but debts I could not pay. I sold everything that was not already claimed and bought a ticket west. San Francisco seemed like a place where a woman might find opportunities." Henry nodded slowly. "That took courage, or desperation," Lily said with a wry smile. I am not entirely sure which. Maybe both. Courage and desperation often go hand in hand out here. He finished his stew and leaned back. Well, Miss Taylor, you are welcome to stay here until your coach is repaired. Chester said it would take at least a day, maybe two. He has to send to Paradise for parts. I could not impose on you for that long. It is not an imposition. I have a spare room, as you have seen. And honestly, it will be nice to have someone to talk to. I do not get much company out here. You live here alone for the past year. I had a couple of ranch hands, but they moved on. Most men want to work bigger spreads, places with more action. This is a quiet life. He said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, but Lily heard the loneliness underneath. Then I suppose I can stay if you are certain it is no trouble, and please call me Lily. Lily, he repeated, and the way he said her name, soft and careful, made something flutter in her chest. That first evening passed surprisingly easily. After supper, Henry showed her around the ranch. He introduced her to his horses, including a beautiful bay mare named Copper who nuzzled Lily's hand looking for treats. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold that seemed impossible, too vivid to be real. Wyoming has the most beautiful sunsets I have ever seen, Henry said, standing beside her as they watched the light fade. Never gets old, no matter how many times I see it. It is stunning, Lily agreed. Philadelphia has buildings that block out most of the sky. I had forgotten how vast the world really is. They stood in comfortable silence as darkness fell and stars began to appear, more stars than Lily had ever seen in her life, scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. I should let you rest, Henry said finally. You have had a long, difficult day. That night, lying in the comfortable bed in Henry's spare room, Lily found herself thinking about her unexpected host. There was something about him that drew her, a quiet strength and gentleness that made her feel safe in a way she had not felt since before her father's death. She told herself not to be foolish, that she would be gone in a day or two, continuing her journey west. But as she drifted off to sleep, she could not help but wonder what it would be like to stay. The next morning, Lily woke to the sound of a rooster crowing and sunlight streaming through her window. She dressed quickly in one of her other dresses, a simple blue cotton that had survived the accident better than the gray one she had worn yesterday. When she emerged from her room, she found Henry in the kitchen, cooking breakfast. "Good morning," he greeted her. "I hope eggs and bacon are all right. My cooking is pretty basic." "It smells wonderful," Lily said honestly. "Can I help with anything? You are a guest. You should rest." "I am not used to being idle, Henry. Please let me help." He handed her a knife and some potatoes. "All right, if you insist. You can slice these for frying." They worked together in the kitchen, moving around each other with an ease that surprised them both. Lily found herself enjoying the simple domesticity of it, the companionable quiet broken only by the sizzle of bacon and occasional comments about the weather or the ranch. As they ate breakfast, Henry said, "I need to ride out and check on the cattle today, make sure none have wandered off. You are welcome to come along if you would like, or you can stay here and rest." "I would love to come," Lily said immediately, "if I would not be in the way." "Not at all. It will be nice to have company." After breakfast, Henry saddled 2 horses, the bay mare Copper for Lily and a sturdy gelding named Thunder for himself. Lily had ridden before, though it had been years, but she found the skill came back quickly. They rode out across the range, Henry showing her the boundaries of his property and explaining his operation. "I am building something here," he told her as they paused on a ridge overlooking his grazing cattle. "It is slow going, but every year it gets a little bigger, a little more established. Eventually, I hope to have one of the most respected ranches in Wyoming." "Why Wyoming?" Lily asked. You do not sound like you were born here, Henry smiled. Good ear. I am from Ohio originally. My family had a small farm there, but when I was 21, I wanted something of my own. I worked as a ranch hand in Montana for a few years, saved every penny, and then came here to start fresh. I wanted land where I could see the sky, where I could build something that was mine from the ground up. I understand that, Lily said softly. Wanting something of your own, something nobody can take away. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something passed between them, an understanding that went deeper than words. They spent the day riding the range, and Lily found herself falling in love with the landscape. It was harsh and unforgiving, but beautiful in its vastness. She could see why Henry had chosen this life, despite its loneliness. There was a freedom here she had never known in Philadelphia. When they returned to the ranch in the late afternoon, they found Chester waiting with news. The coach would need another full day to repair, maybe more. The axle damage was worse than he had initially thought. I am real sorry, Miss Taylor, Chester said, looking embarrassed. I know you were trying to make the connection in Paradise to the California stage. It is all right, Lily said, and she was surprised to realize she meant it. These things cannot be helped. After Chester left, Henry turned to her. I hope you do not mind staying another night or two. I do not mind at all, Lily said, and the smile they shared felt like a secret, something precious and fragile. That evening they sat on the porch after supper, watching another spectacular sunset. Henry had brought out coffee and they sipped it as the sky turned from blue to gold to deep purple. Can I ask you something? Henry said after a long silence, Of course. What did you do in Philadelphia before your father died? Lily was quiet for a moment. I helped my father with his business, or what I thought was his business. I kept his books, managed his correspondence. I thought I understood what he did, but after he died, I realized I had only seen what he wanted me to see. I also did some sewing, made dresses for ladies in our neighborhood. I enjoyed that, creating something beautiful with my hands. You are skilled with numbers, then? Yes, I have always been good with figures. My father encouraged it, even though most people thought it was odd for a girl to concern herself with such things. Henry nodded thoughtfully. That is a valuable skill out here. Most ranchers I know struggle with the business side of things. They talked for hours that night, sharing their histories and dreams. Lily learned that Henry had come west after his parents died, that he had no siblings, that he had built this ranch with nothing but hard work and determination. Henry learned about Lily's childhood, her love of reading, her mother who had died when she was young, her complicated feelings about her father. I loved him, Lily said softly, but I am also angry at him for leaving me with such a mess. Is that terrible? No, Henry said firmly. It is honest. People are complicated. We can love them and still be hurt by their actions. The way he said it made Lily think he understood from personal experience, but she did not press. They were still strangers, despite this growing connection between them. Over the next 2 days, as the coach repairs dragged on, Lily fell into the rhythm of ranch life. She helped Henry with morning chores, feeding the chickens and collecting eggs. She cooked meals while he worked on mending fences and other tasks. In the afternoons, they would ride out together, and Henry would show her more of the ranch. He taught her about cattle, about how to read the land, about the delicate balance of life out here. She told him stories about Philadelphia, about the city life he had never known, about art and music and theater. You miss it? He asked one afternoon as they sat by a stream that ran through his property, watching the water flow over smooth stones. Parts of it, Lily admitted. I miss the concerts, the bookshops, the sense of being part of something larger. But I do not miss the confinement of it, the way everything was so prescribed. Here, it feels like I can breathe properly for the first time in my life." Henry was quiet for a long moment, then said, "What if you stayed?" Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What? I mean, not forever, just longer. A few more days. Chester says the coach will be ready tomorrow, but you do not have to be on it. You could take the next stage or the one after that." He was looking at the stream, not at her, and she could see the tension in his shoulders. "I know it is forward of me to suggest it, and you have your plans for San Francisco, but I have enjoyed having you here. More than enjoyed it. These past few days have been the happiest I have had since I came to Wyoming." Lily felt tears prick her eyes. She had been thinking the same thing, dreading the moment when she would have to leave, return to her solitary journey west to an uncertain future. "I do not want to leave," she admitted. "But I cannot just stay here indefinitely. What would people say? What would you say if I overstayed my welcome?" Now Henry did look at her, and the intensity in his blue eyes took her breath away. "You could never overstay your welcome, Lily, and as for what people would say, I do not care. But if you are concerned about propriety, I could hire you as my housekeeper and bookkeeper. God knows I need help with both. It would be a legitimate arrangement with proper wages." "Henry, I cannot ask you to do that." "You are not asking, I am offering, I am practically begging." He reached out and took her hand, the first time he had touched her since catching her when she fainted that first day. His hand was work roughened but gentle. "I know it is fast. I know we barely know each other, but I feel like I have been waiting for you without knowing what I was waiting for. When I saw you collapse in my yard and I caught you, it felt like something clicking into place. Does that sound crazy?" "No," Lily whispered. "It does not sound crazy at all." "Then stay, at least for a while, see if you like it here, see if—" He trailed off, but she knew what he meant. "See if this thing growing between us is real." "All right," Lily said. "I will stay." The smile that broke across Henry's face was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. He squeezed her hand, then seemed to realize he was still holding it and let go, looking almost embarrassed. "We should get back and tell Chester," he said. "Get your trunk off the coach before he leaves." That evening, after Chester had departed with assurances that he would spread the word that Miss Taylor had found employment at the Jensen ranch, Henry and Lily sat on the porch again. There was a new awareness between them now, a sweet tension that came from acknowledged possibilities. "I will pay you fairly," Henry said. $20 a month plus room and board. That is what I was paying my last ranch hand. That is very generous. You will earn it. My books are a disaster and my cooking would drive anyone away eventually." He paused. "I want you to know, Lily, I will be a gentleman. You have your room, your privacy. This is a business arrangement." "I know," Lily said, and she did know. She trusted Henry in a way she had not trusted anyone in a long time. The days that followed fell into a comfortable pattern. Lily took over the household accounts and was shocked at the disorganization she found. Henry had been stuffing receipts and bills into drawers, calculating his expenses and profits on scraps of paper. Within a week, she had everything organized into proper ledgers, and Henry was amazed to discover he was actually doing better financially than he had thought. "You are a miracle worker," he told her, looking over her neat columns of figures. "I am just organized," she said, but she was pleased by his praise. She also transformed his kitchen and home. She sewed proper curtains for the windows, made cushions for the hard wooden chairs, brought small touches of beauty to the stark bachelor quarters. She cooked meals that were actual cuisine rather than just fuel. Henry started coming in for lunch, looking forward not just to the food but to her company. They talked constantly, learning each other's minds. Henry told her about his dreams for the ranch, his plans to expand, maybe raise horses in addition to cattle. Lily talked about the books she loved, the places she wanted to see. He borrowed a wagon and took her into Paradise, where she bought fabric and supplies, and where the townspeople eyed them with curiosity. "That is Henry Jensen," she heard one woman whisper to another. "Finally got himself a woman, did he?" Lily felt her cheeks heat. But Henry seemed oblivious, greeting people with his quiet courtesy and introducing Lily as his housekeeper without any self-consciousness. Paradise was a small town, but bustling with the activity of a growing settlement. There was a general store, a saloon, a church, a schoolhouse, and various other businesses. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. At the general store, the proprietor's wife, a friendly woman named Martha, engaged Lily in conversation while Henry looked at tools. "It is nice to see Henry with company," Martha said. "He is such a good man, but so alone out there. We have all worried about him." "He seems very content with his life," Lily said. "Content maybe, but lonely. A man needs a wife, children. A home is not complete without them." She gave Lily a meaningful look. "You staying on at his place?" "I am working as his housekeeper," Lily said firmly, though she felt her face flush. "Of course, dear," Martha said with a knowing smile on the ride back to the ranch. Lily was quiet, thinking about Martha's words. Henry noticed her silence. "Something wrong?" he asked. "People will talk," Lily said. "About me staying at your ranch?" "Let them talk," Henry said. "People always need something to gossip about. We know the truth of things, and that is what matters." But Lily noticed that he gripped the reins a little tighter, and she wondered if he was bothered more than he let on. As September turned into October, the weather began to change. The days were still warm, but the nights grew cool, and the leaves on the cottonwoods along the stream turned gold. Henry spent long days preparing for winter, making sure his cattle were healthy and his stores were adequate. Lily helped where she could, and in the evenings they would sit by the fire, Henry reading aloud from the books Lily had brought from Philadelphia while she sewed or mended. One evening, about 6 weeks after Lily's arrival, Henry set down the book and looked at her across the firelight. "Lily, I need to tell you something." She set down her sewing, hearing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" "I think I am falling in love with you." The words came out in a rush, as if he had been holding them in for too long. "I know I should not say it. I know it is not fair when you are working for me and living in my home, but I cannot pretend anymore. Every morning I wake up happy because I know I will see you. Every night I lie awake thinking about you. You have brought life to this place, to me. I was existing before you came, just going through the motions, but now I feel alive again." Lily felt tears spill down her cheeks. "Henry, I feel the same way. I have been so afraid to admit it, even to myself. I came here by accident, but staying was a choice, and I chose to stay because of you. I love you." Henry crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her to her feet. "May I kiss you?" "Yes," she breathed, and then his lips were on hers, gentle but insistent, and she felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Henry rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. "I know it is fast. I know we should wait longer, but I do not want to waste any more time. I want you as my wife, my partner, my love. Will you marry me, Lily Taylor?" "Yes," Lily said, laughing through her tears. "Yes, I will marry you, Henry Jensen." They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Paradise, with half the town in attendance. Martha and her husband stood up as witnesses, and the preacher, a kind man named Reverend Thomas, performed the ceremony with warmth and humor. Lily wore a simple dress she had made herself from cream-colored fabric, with flowers from Martha's garden in her hair. Henry wore his best suit, his hair neatly trimmed, looking so handsome that Lily felt her heart skip when she saw him waiting for her at the altar. Dearly beloved, Reverend Thomas began, and Lily felt the rightness of this moment settle over her like a blessing. When Henry said, "I do," and slipped a simple gold band on her finger, she thought about the stagecoach accident that had brought her here, the series of chances and choices that had led to this moment. Accidents can be blessings. Henry had said that first day, and he had been so right. The townspeople threw a celebration at the church hall with food and music and dancing. Henry, who claimed he was not a dancer, swept Lily around the floor with surprising grace. "Where did you learn to dance?" she asked, delighted. "My mother taught me," he said. "She said a gentleman should know how to dance, even if he planned to be a rancher." "I like your mother," Lily said. "She would have loved you," Henry replied, and the past tense reminded Lily that he had lost his parents just as she had lost hers. When they finally returned to the ranch as husband and wife, the moon was high and full, casting silver light over the landscape. Henry lifted Lily down from the wagon, but instead of setting her on her feet, he carried her across the threshold of their home. "Our home," he corrected when she said his home. "Everything I have is yours now, Lily. My land, my dreams, my heart." Their wedding night was tender and passionate, a coming together that felt both inevitable and miraculous. Afterward, lying in Henry's arms in the bed that was now theirs, Lily felt a peace she had never known. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Henry replied, his arms tightening around her. "Thank you for the accident that brought you to me." The first year of their marriage was full of hard work and joy. Lily threw herself into being a rancher's wife, learning skills she had never imagined needing. Henry taught her to shoot, to rope cattle, to read the signs of weather in the sky. She taught him to appreciate poetry, to see the beauty in small domestic comforts, to open his heart more fully than he ever had before. They faced challenges together. A harsh winter that killed some of their cattle. A dispute with a neighboring rancher over water rights that Henry settled with patience and diplomacy. The loneliness of the isolated life, which was easier now that they had each other, but still present on long winter nights when the wind howled and the snow piled high. Through it all, they grew closer. They learned to read each other's moods, to support each other through difficulties, to celebrate the small victories that made up their days. When spring came and new calves were born, Lily felt like she was witnessing a miracle. "Life," she said to Henry as they watched a calf take its first wobbly steps. "Life just keeps going on no matter what." "That is what makes it all worthwhile," Henry agreed, pulling her close. In July, Lily realized she was pregnant. She had suspected for a few weeks but waited to be certain before telling Henry. When she finally told him one evening after supper, he stared at her in wonder. "A baby. We are going to have a baby." "Yes," she said, laughing at his expression. "Around February, I think." Henry let out a whoop of joy and swept her up in his arms, spinning her around before setting her down carefully as if she were suddenly made of glass. "I am not fragile," she protested, still laughing. "You are carrying my child," he said, his hand going to her still flat stomach. "That makes you precious beyond measure." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Lily continued to work around the ranch, though Henry fussed over her constantly, trying to get her to rest more. She felt strong and healthy, energized by the life growing inside her. They spent the autumn preparing for the baby, turning the spare room where Lily had first stayed into a nursery. Henry built a beautiful cradle from pine wood, carving delicate patterns into the sides. Lily sewed tiny clothes and blankets, marveling at how small they were. "Boy or girl, do you think?" Henry asked one evening as they sat together, his hand on her swelling belly. "I do not know," Lily said. "As long as the baby is healthy, I do not care." "I will love either," Henry agreed, "but I have to admit part of me hopes for a son." someone to teach about ranching to pass all this on to. And if it is a daughter, then I will teach her about ranching too, Henry said firmly. My child, boy or girl, will know how to stand on their own feet and make their own way. I love you, Lily said, tears in her eyes. Pregnancy had made her emotional, prone to crying at the smallest things. I love you too, Henry said, kissing her forehead. Winter came early that year with snow falling in November. Lily found herself moving more slowly, her belly large and awkward. But she was happy, surrounded by warmth and love, preparing for the arrival of their child. On a cold February night, with snow falling softly outside, Lily's labor began. Henry rode through the storm to Paradise to fetch the doctor and Martha, who had offered to help with the birth. The next 12 hours were the longest of Henry's life, pacing outside the bedroom door while Martha and Dr. Williams attended to Lily. When he finally heard a baby's cry, thin and furious, he burst into the room without waiting for permission. Henry, Lily said weakly, smiling at him from the bed, come meet your son. Their son. Henry approached the bed on shaky legs and looked down at the tiny red-faced creature in Lily's arms. He had a shock of dark hair, and his eyes, when they opened, were blue like Henry's. He is perfect, Henry whispered, touching one tiny hand with his finger. The baby's fingers closed around his, gripping with surprising strength. James, Lily said. I want to name him James, after my father. Henry looked at her in surprise. After everything her father had done, he had not expected this. Despite everything, he was still my father, Lily explained. And he would have loved this baby, loved knowing his name would continue. James Jensen, Henry said, testing the name. I like it. James Henry Jensen. After you too, Lily said, smiling. The early months of parenthood were exhausting and wonderful. James was a healthy baby with a powerful set of lungs, keeping them up at all hours. But watching him grow, seeing Lily as a mother, filled Henry with a contentment deeper than anything he had ever known. This is what I was missing, he told Lily one night, holding James while she rested. I thought I was content before, but I was just half alive. You and James, you make everything complete. Spring came, and with it new life on the ranch. The cattle had survived the winter well, and several horses foaled. James grew from a tiny infant into a chubby baby who smiled and cooed at everything. Lily and Henry fell into the rhythm of parenthood, learning as they went, supporting each other through the challenges. On a warm day in April, they had a picnic by the stream, the three of them. James lay on a blanket, watching the leaves move overhead with fascinated eyes, while Henry and Lily ate bread and cheese and watched their son. Are you happy? Henry asked. Happier than I ever imagined I could be, Lily said honestly. When that stagecoach crashed, I thought my life was over, that I had lost everything. But I had actually found everything, I just did not know it yet. Accidents can be blessings, Henry said, repeating those words from that first day. The best blessing, Lily agreed, leaning against his shoulder. Do you ever think about how easily we might have missed each other? If the wheel had not broken, if I had not decided to walk to your ranch, if you had not been home that day? I try not to think about it, Henry admitted. It frightens me how close I came to living my whole life without knowing you existed. But we did not miss each other. We found each other, and that is what matters. James made a gurgling sound, and they both laughed, the moment of seriousness passing into joy. The years that followed were full and rich. James grew into a sturdy boy with his father's blue eyes and his mother's quick mind. He followed Henry everywhere, learning about the ranch from the time he could walk. 2 years after James was born, Lily gave birth to a daughter whom they named Lucy. She had Lily's brown hair and Henry's smile, and from the beginning she was fearless, determined to keep up with her older brother in everything. The ranch prospered. With Lily's careful management of the finances and Henry's skill as a rancher, they slowly expanded their holdings. They built a larger barn, increased their herd, earned a reputation for quality cattle. Other ranchers came to Henry for advice, respecting his fair dealing and expertise. Paradise grew too, from a small settlement into a proper town. A railroad spur came through in 1882, opening up new markets for beef and bringing more settlers. The West was changing, becoming more civilized, and Henry and Lily watched it happen from their ranch, part of the transformation but also apart from it, content in their own small world. When James was 6 and Lucy 4, they hired a young couple as ranch hands, giving Henry more time to spend with his growing family. The husband, Tom, was a hard worker learning the ranching business. His wife, Sarah, became a close friend to Lily, another woman who understood the challenges and rewards of ranch life. "You have built something remarkable here," Sarah said one day as they worked together in the garden Lily had established behind the house. "Not just the ranch, but the life. You and Henry, you are true partners." "We are," Lily agreed, watching Henry teach James how to rope a fence post while Lucy cheered them on. "I think that is the secret to making it work out here. You cannot do it alone. You need a partner you trust completely who shares your dreams." "You are lucky to have found each other." "Lucky," Lily repeated, thinking of the stagecoach accident that had brought her here. "And blessed." That evening, after the children were asleep, Lily and Henry sat on the porch as they had so many times before. The stars were bright overhead, and the night air was sweet with the smell of sage and grass. "You ever miss Philadelphia?" Henry asked. It was a question he had not asked in years. "No," Lily said without hesitation. "Sometimes I miss the cultural things, the music and theater. But this is home now. This is where I belong." "I am glad," Henry said, taking her hand, "because I cannot imagine this life without you. Everything good I have comes from that day you stumbled into my yard." "We have built a good life," Lily said. "Better than I ever dreamed possible when I was running from my father's debts." "We have," Henry agreed. "But it is not finished yet. We have years ahead of us, watching our children grow, maybe having more babies, growing old together." "More babies," Lily said with a laugh. "Henry Jensen, 2 children are plenty to keep up with." "But they are such good children," he teased. "Surely we could manage 1 or 2 more." Lily shook her head, but she was smiling. The truth was, she would not mind more children. Her family had been so small, and now she had this abundant life, full of love and laughter. As if reading her thoughts, Henry said, "I love our family. I love what we have created together. Sometimes I still cannot believe how lucky I am." "We are both lucky," Lily said. "That is what love is, I think. A kind of luck that you have to work for, that you have to choose every day." "Then I choose you," Henry said. "Today and every day." "And I choose you," Lily replied. In the years that followed, they did have 2 more children, another boy they named Thomas, and a daughter they named Margaret. The house rang with children's voices, with laughter and sometimes tears, with all the chaos and joy of a growing family. James grew into a responsible young man, learning the ranching business with dedication. Lucy proved to have her mother's head for figures and kept detailed records of everything from calving rates to feed costs. Thomas was the dreamer, always coming up with new ideas for improving the ranch. And Margaret was the peacemaker, smoothing over conflicts and bringing harmony wherever she went. Henry and Lily watched their children grow with pride and love, guiding them but also giving them freedom to become their own people. They faced the challenges of parenthood together, just as they had faced everything else, with communication and mutual support. The ranch continued to thrive. By the time James was 18, They had over 1,000 head of cattle and had become one of the most respected operations in Wyoming. Henry trained James to eventually take over, teaching him not just the practical skills of ranching but also the values of fair dealing and hard work. "This will all be yours someday," Henry told James one day as they surveyed their land from horseback. "But it is not just property and cattle. It is a way of life, a commitment to this land and these animals. It is a responsibility." "I understand, Pa," James said seriously. "I will take care of it, I promise." Henry looked at his son, seeing so much of himself and Lily in the young man James had become, and felt a satisfaction deeper than any he had known. This was legacy, this passing on of something valuable to the next generation. Lily, meanwhile, had become involved in the Paradise community. She helped establish a proper school, taught Sunday school at the church, and organized charitable efforts for families in need. She had found her place in this western town, using her education and skills to make it better. "You have become quite the pillar of the community," Henry teased her one evening. "Remember when you first came here, just passing through on your way to San Francisco?" "That seems like a lifetime ago," Lily said. "I was so young, so naive about what life really meant. I thought opportunity meant a city job and independence. I had no idea that real opportunity was building something with someone you love." As they moved into their 40s, Henry and Lily found their love deepening in new ways. The passionate urgency of early marriage had mellowed into something richer, a deep companionship that went beyond words. They could communicate with a glance, could anticipate each other's needs, could sit in comfortable silence that said more than conversation. They still rode out together when they could, escaping the demands of ranch and family for a few hours of solitude. They still sat on the porch in the evenings, talking about the day, making plans for the future. They still reached for each other in the night, their physical connection as strong as ever. "You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever seen," Henry told her on their 15th wedding anniversary. "I have 4 children and I am 40 years old," Lily protested, though she was pleased. "And you are more beautiful now than the day I first saw you collapse in my yard," Henry insisted. "Because now I know you, all of you, and that makes you beautiful in ways that have nothing to do with appearance." "I love you," Lily said, tears in her eyes. "I fall in love with you more every day." "I know the feeling," Henry replied, pulling her close. "When James turned 20, he married a local girl named Emily, a sweet young woman who loved ranch life and fit seamlessly into their family. They moved into the bunkhouse that Henry renovated into a small house, starting their own family while still being part of the larger Jensen operation. Lucy went to school in Cheyenne to study business, returning 2 years later to manage the ranch finances and help expand their operation into new markets. She never married, declaring that she was perfectly happy managing the family business, but Henry and Lily suspected there was more to that story than she told them. Thomas surprised everyone by becoming interested in breeding horses rather than cattle. Henry gave him a section of land to start his own operation, and Thomas proved to have a gift with horses, developing a line of working stock that became sought after throughout Wyoming. Margaret, their youngest, had inherited her mother's kindness and her father's strength. She became a teacher in Paradise, beloved by her students, and eventually married the town doctor, a good man who worshipped the ground she walked on. Through all these changes, through the joys and sorrows of watching their children become adults, Henry and Lily remained each other's constant. They celebrated their children's successes together and comforted each other through disappointments. They grew old together, their hair turning gray, their faces weathering, their bodies showing the effects of years of hard work, but their love never diminishing. On their 25th wedding anniversary, their children threw them a party. The whole town of Paradise turned out, along with ranchers from miles around. There was music and dancing and an abundance of food. Henry and Lily stood together, surrounded by family and friends, and felt overwhelmed by the life they had built. To Henry and Lily Jensen, Tom, their longtime ranch hand now retired, raised a toast. Two people who prove that love and hard work can create miracles. You have built not just a successful ranch, but a family, a legacy, and a life that inspires everyone who knows you. To 25 more years. 25 more years, the crowd echoed, raising their glasses. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, Henry and Lily walked out to the spot where she had first collapsed all those years ago. "Right here," Henry said. "This is where it all began. I came running out of the house and saw you falling, and I caught you." "You have been catching me ever since," Lily said softly. "Every time I stumble, every time I doubt, you are there." "And you have been my anchor," Henry replied. "Before you came, I was adrift, going through the motions of life without really living. You gave me purpose, love, a family. You gave me everything." They stood there in the moonlight, in the place where accident had become blessing, and Lily thought about all the turns her life had taken. If her father had not died, if she had not fled Philadelphia, if the stagecoach wheel had not broken, if she had not decided to walk to this ranch instead of waiting with the coach, she would have missed all of this. She would have missed Henry, missed this life, missed becoming the person she was meant to be. "I would not change a single thing," she said aloud. "Not one moment of it." "Neither would I," Henry agreed, pulling her close. "You are my blessing, Lily Jensen, now and always." They kissed there under the Wyoming stars, the same stars that had watched over them for 25 years, the same sky that would watch over their grandchildren and great-grandchildren in the years to come. As they grew older, Henry and Lily gradually passed the running of the ranch to James and Emily, stepping back to become advisors rather than operators. They found this transition difficult at first, but also liberating. For the first time since they had married, they had time just to be together without the constant demands of the ranch. They traveled a bit, taking the train to Cheyenne and Denver, places Lily had always wanted to see. They visited their other children, delighted in their growing brood of grandchildren. But they always returned to the ranch, to the home they had built together, which remained the center of their world. On a warm spring evening, when Henry was 55 and Lily 53, they sat on the porch as they had done thousands of times before. The ranch spread out before them, green and peaceful in the fading light. They could see James and Emily's house in the distance, smoke rising from the chimney. Lucy was inside their house going over accounts. Thomas was working with his horses in the far corral. Margaret had brought her family for Sunday dinner and had just left. "We did it," Lily said softly. "We really did it. We built something that will last." "We did," Henry agreed. "And it all started with an accident." "The best accident of my life," Lily said, reaching for his hand. Henry took her hand, their fingers interlacing with the ease of long practice. "Accidents can be blessings," he said, repeating those words he had spoken so long ago, words that had proven to be a prophecy. "The greatest blessing," Lily agreed. They sat there as the sun set, painting the sky in the brilliant colors that Wyoming specialized in, surrounded by the life they had built together, the family they had created, the love that had sustained them through 27 years of marriage. And as stars began to appear in the darkening sky, they remained hand in hand, two people who had found each other by accident and built a lifetime by choice. Their love as vast and enduring as the Wyoming landscape that had witnessed their journey. The years continued to pass. marked by births and deaths, achievements and challenges, but through it all, Henry and Lily remained constants for each other. They watched their grandchildren grow, even saw the first of their great-grandchildren born. The ranch continued to thrive under James's management, growing and adapting to the changing times of the new century. When they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, the celebration was enormous, with family coming from across Wyoming and beyond. Henry and Lily stood together, now in their 70s, their bodies aged but their spirits undiminished, and looked out at the crowd of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, friends, and neighbors. 50 years, Henry said to the assembled crowd. 50 years ago, I was a lonely cowboy working a small ranch, thinking I was content with my solitary life. And then one day, a beautiful woman literally fell into my life. The stagecoach that was carrying her broke down and she walked to my ranch and collapsed in my yard. I caught her as she fell, and I have been thanking God for that accident every day since. I was running from a failed life in Philadelphia, Lily continued the story, heading west to an uncertain future, hoping to start over. I had lost my father, my home, everything I knew. And then fate brought me here to this man, this place, this life. What I thought was disaster was actually destiny. They told their children and grandchildren about those early days, about the growing love, about the challenges they had faced and overcome together. They talked about building the ranch, raising their family, growing old together. The secret to 50 years of marriage, Henry said, is choosing each other every single day, even on the days when it is hard, when you are tired or frustrated or disappointed. You choose to love, to forgive, to move forward together. And you remember, Lily added, that life is full of accidents, both good and bad. What matters is how you respond to them. You can let them defeat you, or you can see them as opportunities. That broken stagecoach was an accident. My collapse in Henry's yard was an accident, but everything that came after was a choice, a series of choices we made together. Their oldest grandson stood up. To Grandpa Henry and Grandma Lily, who taught us all what real love looks like, may we all be so blessed. As the celebration continued around them, Henry and Lily slipped away for a moment of quiet. They walked slowly, their bodies not as strong as they once were, to the spot where it had all begun. Right here, Lily said, touching the ground. Right here is where I fell. And right here is where I caught you, Henry said. Best catch I ever made. We have had a good life, Lily said, leaning against him. Better than good, extraordinary. We have, Henry agreed. And I would live it all again, every moment, every challenge, every joy. As would I, Lily said. Though perhaps with fewer children. 4 was quite enough. They laughed together, the sound ringing out across the ranch they had built, the land they had tended, the legacy they had created. Henry and Lily lived several more years together. Still in the house Henry had built with his own hands, still surrounded by family, still deeply in love. When Henry passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 78, Lily mourned him deeply, but also celebrated the incredible life they had shared. She lived 2 more years after his death, long enough to see another great-grandchild born, long enough to ensure that the family understood their history and heritage. She spent her final days in the house she and Henry had made into a home, surrounded by photographs and memories and the love that had sustained her through more than half a century. On the evening before she died, Lucy sat with her mother, holding her hand. "Tell me again, Mama," Lucy said. "Tell me the story of how you and Papa met." And Lily, her voice weak but her memory clear, told the story one last time. About the stagecoach accident, about walking to a stranger's ranch, about collapsing in the yard and being caught by strong arms. about blue eyes full of kindness and a voice saying accidents can be blessings. And he was right, Lily finished. It was a blessing, the greatest blessing of my life. She died peacefully that night and was buried beside Henry on a hill overlooking the ranch, the spot they had chosen together years before. Their graves were marked with simple headstones that bore their names, dates, and a single line that their children had chosen. Two souls united by accident, bound by love, eternal by choice. The Jensen Ranch continued to thrive for generations after them, passed down through their descendants who never forgot the story of how it all began. Visitors to Paradise, Wyoming could still see the ranch house that Henry had built, could walk the land that he and Lily had tended together, could feel the legacy of love that they had created. And sometimes on quiet Wyoming evenings, when the sky turned gold and purple and the stars began to emerge, people swore they could see two figures standing on the porch of the old house, hand in hand, looking out over the land they loved, eternal witnesses to the truth that accidents can indeed be blessings, and that love, real love, lasts forever. The story of Henry and Lily Jensen became part of Paradise's history, told to children and grandchildren as an example of how the West was won not just through hard work and determination, but through love and partnership. Their ranch remained in the family, a living testament to what two people could build together when they chose to see blessing instead of disaster, opportunity instead of obstacle. James and Emily lived in the main house after Henry and Lily passed, maintaining it with the same love and care their parents had shown. They made sure their own children understood the significance of where they lived, the sacrifice and dedication that had built it. Lucy never married, but found fulfillment in managing the family business empire that grew from the humble ranch. She endowed a scholarship in her parents' names for young women studying business, wanting other women to have the opportunities for education and independence that her parents had given her. Thomas's horse breeding operation became renowned throughout the West, but he always credited his success to the lessons his father had taught him about patience, dedication, and treating animals with respect. Margaret, as a teacher and then a school principal, used her parents' story to inspire her students. She taught them that life's disappointments could become life's greatest gifts if you approach them with the right attitude and the courage to embrace the unexpected. The Jensen legacy spread far beyond one ranch in Wyoming. The values Henry and Lily had lived by hard work, integrity, partnership, love influenced not just their children but everyone who knew them. Paradise itself grew into a prosperous town, and while the old-timers died off and new generations arrived, the story of the lonely cowboy and the woman who arrived at his ranch by accident remained part of the town's identity. On the centennial of Henry and Lily's wedding, their descendants gathered from across the country for a reunion at the ranch. There were over 100 of them, representing 5 generations, all connected by the love story that had begun with an accident. They gathered at the gravesite on the hill, bringing flowers and stories. The oldest among them, James and Emily's daughter Sarah, now in her 70s, told the story as her grandmother Lily had told it to her. They believed that accidents could be blessings, Sarah said to the assembled family. And they proved it with their lives. They took a moment of misfortune and transformed it into a legacy of love that continues today in every one of us. We are all here because of that broken stagecoach wheel, because of Grandma Lily's decision to walk instead of wait, because of Grandpa Henry's kindness to a stranger. We are here because they chose to see blessing instead of disaster, because they chose love over loneliness, because they chose each other. As the sun set over the Wyoming landscape, painting the sky in those spectacular colors that had so moved Lily when she first arrived. The Jensen family stood together, united by the bond their ancestors had forged. They were ranchers and teachers, business people and artists, scientists and soldiers, but they were all Jensens, all carrying forward the legacy of Henry and Lily. The ranch house stood as it had for over a century, weathered but solid, lovingly maintained by each generation. The land was still worked, still productive, still beautiful. And on the porch where Henry and Lily had spent so many evenings together, their descendants gathered, telling stories and making memories, continuing the tradition of family and love that had begun with an accident and grown into something eternal. As stars emerged in the darkening sky, the same stars that had watched over Henry and Lily throughout their lives, the Jensen family sang together, old hymns and folk songs that had been favorites of their ancestors. And if the wind carried their voices across the prairie, mixing with the sounds of cattle and horses and the rustle of sage, it seemed fitting, a continuation of the life that Henry and Lily had built together. The story of Henry Jensen and Lily Taylor Jensen became more than just family history. It became a symbol of the American West, of the possibility for redemption and new beginnings that drew people westward. It became a testament to the power of love to transform lives, to create something beautiful and lasting from the raw materials of chance and choice. And long after everyone who had known them personally was gone, their story endured, passed down through generations, inspiring others to believe that accidents could indeed be blessings, that love could conquer loneliness, and that two people committed to each other could build something that would last forever. The Wyoming wind still blew across the land they had loved, the mountains still stood eternal on the horizon, and the ranch they had built together still thrived, a monument to the truth that the best things in life often come from the most unexpected places, and that love, real and true love, never dies but lives on in the lives it touches, the legacy it creates, and the stories that carry it forward through time.